Good morning, everybody. I had a show planned for you today, and it was basically me kicking the shit out of Donald Trump for an hour. And I'm not going to do that. He gave he had a rally yesterday, and during the whole rally, he glitched up like Glitch McConnell, and I had 10 tabs open of different videos of him just looking ridiculous. He made fun of Joe Biden's stutter, or tried to anyways. He didn't get that right. He looked nothing like Joe Biden when he did it. He just looked like a fool. And then I had a bunch of juxtaposing videos of after he made fun of Joe Biden, of him slurring words, screwing up words, freezing up, etc. But when I was looking at the information, I kept seeing things that's just so much more important than that. So in 20 minutes, I put together a show that is relevant to the world, relevant to you. And we're going to start by talking about you. So let's get to it. Fill your coffee cups. Man, I hope your coffee's as good as mine. I hope it's getting good this morning, because we're going to go someplace that we've never gone before. I'm going to bring you into that world that is in between the show that is shown you and government and the way the world's run. There's a little sliver, a little corridor that's in the middle of that fourth wall break. And I'm going to invite you in there. So let's do it. Folks, I talk about you all the time. I talk directly to you. I talk about you. And I tell you, you folks recharge me. You folks renew my faith in humanity. And I pay you compliments. And I constantly remind you, that's not kissing your ass, folks. It's not. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about so that you can know, because we're going to talk about 3 or 4 different things, and then we're going to tie them all together in the end to give you a slightly different worldview. When I say that you're good and decent people, this is what I'm talking about. I shared a post yesterday. I want you to know your value to the world. Why you being you and the way you are, your worldview, the way you educate yourself, why it's important. I ran a post out on all my social media. This is ran across the platforms. I didn't do a video edit of this. This is just all on this is X-Chan, Threads, that kind of stuff. And it's about a news story that broke here in Texas. This is Carrie Birmingham. Forgive me, I pulled a Trump. I was tongue-tied for a second. Carrie Birmingham. Carrie Birmingham, this fat MAGA piece of trash. And I won't pull up the whole story because it has him standing with his robe open. He shot his wife 3 times with a shotgun in the driveway. He was given 10 years. He'll be eligible for probation in 5 for brutally murdering his wife. She had an affair, and he got drunk and murdered her when she got home. And a jury of all women, and people are freaking out. They're like, well, how can a jury of all women just give him 10 years for brutally, intentionally? I mean, he sits there and he talks to her and tells her, I'm going to kill you. And she films him and says, do you really want this to be the last interaction here? Do you really want this to be the way this goes down? And he shoots her. It was just brutal. And they only gave him 10 years. Eligible for probation in 5. That's horrific. I mean, that is horrific. But Spring, Texas is outside Houston, folks. Houston is a blue area. It is. Houston is filled with folks like us. It is. Spring, Texas, Katy, Texas. These are all MAGA bastions. They're full of people that are they're just not like us. They just are not us. They don't see things the way we see them. And when I tell you, you are better than these people, this is why. I wish I could say this is a one-off. See, I've got this pulled up. I want to pull up. My first response to this was to call attention to someone else's response to this. MAGA flooded in, and I wish I could tell you this was a one-off response. It was not. It was very common. In discussing this, the Maga Freaks came in, and as this guy says, she lost at Whore Olympics. Their daughter was on his side. Their daughter, these 2 children, they both have said they lost their mother and their father that day because they hate their father. But this guy heard somewhere in right-wing media that the kids were on his side because she cheated on her dad. And this mindset that these people have, because like I said, I really wish this was a one-off. It's not. It's not. There were a lot of these comments. Because she had an affair, she deserved it. And looking at that guy, I understand why she had an affair. I mean, Jesus Christ. If you go back and look at the pictures of him, he is repugnant. Repugnant. But yeah, so when I say you're good and decent people and that you recharge me, it's because people like that are out there. They fill my comments. I see people like that in the real world. I live in a very red area of Texas. It's not hyperbole when I say within minutes of my home in 3 different directions are the headquarters of hate groups. When I say you are good and decent people, I mean it. You're good and decent people. You have more value than you know. But I want you to keep that in mind. Okay? We're going to set that aside now and keep that in mind. Now I want to talk about the narrative, the story. The fourth wall break. Does anybody out there not know what a fourth wall break is? Have you ever seen Deadpool movies, with Ryan Reynolds? He's notorious for doing comedic fourth wall breaks. That's where, when you watch a movie, it's presented to you in the perspective and why we enjoy them so much and why they actually make the synapses in our brains fire is because as an art, they have developed to the point that they bring you into them. That's why cell phones in a movie theater are so damn bad. They absolutely destroy that whole process of bringing you into the movie. I mean, think about when you were watching The Godfather. It was like sitting in the room. The camera perspectives were like you were sitting at the end of the dinner table. You're like a fly on the wall. You're part of the story. And when there's a fourth wall break, it's abrupt, it's jarring. It's like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not participating in this story. I'm the audience, and they're talking directly to me, and the whole fantasy just evaporates for a minute until they draw you back in. We get those every once in a while in politics, and they're a really good thing in politics. One just happened the other day. We had the State of the Union rebuttal from Katie Britt. Just a reminder of Katie Britt. This is Katie Britt. And she gave her rebuttal. She talked, and I learned something new, not from Katie Britt, but that voice she was using. I was so upset that when I had Phil on the show, I couldn't get the video of her voice to play. Actually, there's a name for it. It's called a baby fundy voice. They teach this in churches and in cults and religion. It's a voice that they teach women to use that is a submissive voice. Female pastors use it a lot. It's called a baby fundy voice. I did not know that was a trained thing, and it is. A lot of people posted videos of the Duggar daughter that does the evangelical show, and she speaks like that constantly. And because everybody was like, we've heard this is a senator. Katie Britt is a senator. We've heard her speak before. We know she doesn't talk that way. What the hell is going on? It's intentional. It's intentional. It's to draw you in to a fantasy. Well, while she was giving that speech, she became very emotional, very red, teared up, telling the story of human trafficking and a woman that had confided into her all these horrific details of human trafficking that happened, and it's Joe Biden's fault because of open borders. And that's where I'm telling you, fourth wall breaks are good sometimes, because we kind of had a fourth wall break here, not by her, but people that were watching it. They were listening to that story that she was telling, and they remembered it. They remembered hearing it before, a long time ago. Independent journalist, a guy by the name of Jonathan Katz, did a great job. He got to digging on it. It just was like a splinter in his brain. He had heard it before, and he started digging and digging and digging. And oh yeah, that story was complete garbage. It was a story. The woman now that Katie Britt was talking about, she's a professional activist. She does this for a living, and she advocates on behalf of human trafficking victims. The story she tells happened when George Bush was president, and it didn't happen in the United States. It happened in Mexico. But Katie Britt presented it as though it just happened, and it just happened because of Joe Biden's border policies, and it happened here. She inferred that it happened here and recently. She lied. She lied. I'll play you just a little bit of this. It's fairly long. I really encourage you to go back and see what Jonathan Katz dug up. He did a really fantastic job here. Okay, 1 second. This is Jonathan Katz. He actually released it first on TikTok.
Alabama, who delivered the Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union last night.
Is the audio coming through, folks?
But the part that was the weirdest for me, the part that was the most off, was this.
When I took office, I took a different approach. I traveled to the Del Rio sector of Texas. That's where I spoke to a woman who shared her story with me.
That's that
she
baby
had
funny
been
voice.
sex trafficked by the cartels starting at the age of 12.
So I immediately had questions. Who was this woman? How did she meet her? How did she get her to tell her this story? Also, she seems to be describing something that had happened over the process of years. She said that it started when this woman was 12. And she says that she's a woman now, so it seems that some time has passed. How much of this happened on the border? What country did it happen in? Did it happen before Joe Biden was president? Senator Britt, right after that, stated pretty directly what side of the border it happened on, or at least she implies it very strongly.
And we wouldn't be okay with this happening in a third world country. This is the United States of America.
All right, so there's the answer. It happened in the United States. Or did it? So I looked a little bit to see if I could figure out what Senator Britt was talking about here. And I found it pretty easily. Senator Britt has told the story over and over and over again since going on this trip. So all I had to do was look for details of the trip, see if there was any information about who she talked to, and if there was any more information about this case there. And I think I found it pretty easily. So in January 2023, Senator Britt, who had just become the junior senator from Alabama, traveled to southern Texas to the Del Rio district near the border of Mexico with two other Republican senators, Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Cindy Hyde-Smith of Mississippi. And Senator Blackburn...
Okay, this goes on for several more minutes. Bottom line is, she went down to the border. She met with this activist. The activist, she didn't meet particularly, because even that has come out today. The activist is like, I never spoke directly to her. I didn't share the story to her. I spoke to a panel and told my story. It was a press conference, kind of like meeting where the senator sat up as a panel. I didn't relay this to her. We didn't have, she even portrayed it as though it was a one-on-one conversation. It wasn't. It wasn't. She just heard a story. She repeated it like it happened here. It was a lie. Everything Republicans say or do is a lie. Everything. The border itself. There's nobody down at the border. There are no invasion down at the border today. You could go down there. There's just, fish in the damn Rio Grande River. There's nobody there. But before the election, they'll fund, and I guarantee you, some right-wing member of the billionaire frat boy club will fund another caravan to come up just in time to take pictures of during the election, and they will pretend that's every day down at the border. Just like the corporate news organizations take old footage. Every time the border comes up, they will take old footage and they'll show you of one day when there were some people down there, as though it's happening right now. And it's not. It's just not. It is this garbage. And that's when you get that fourth wall break. You get that key view that, oh yeah, this is a play. I'm not really participating in this. This is a play being put on for me. And that's important, folks. It's important to know that, because it falls into our lives every day in ways that you don't think about. So let's set that aside for a second and look at something else. There are things that go on in this world every day, and we're busy and we don't pay attention. Now, when I ask this question, a lot of you love to give answers because you're really smart. I'm not asking for that. The point of this question is to point out how many people are just unaware that this happened. So don't answer if you know the answer. In the chat, how many of you folks know who Stellantis is? or what Stellantis is? Just off the top of your heads. If you don't know who or what Stellantis is, just give me a hands up or something. Don't know, something in the chat. No, no's good enough. Don't know. Okay. How many of you that are answering know what the big three is? What's the big three? You guys know that for sure, because we've talked about it our whole lives. Ford, Chrysler, General Motors. The big three, right? Big three American car makers. Do you know there's not a big three anymore? Stellantis is not American. What used to be Chrysler is now just one of the subsidiaries of Stellantis. This is who Stellantis is. They're one of the largest car manufacturers in the world. Stellantis came about when Fiat, one of the largest car conglomerates in the world, merged with the parent company of Peugeot and became a car company. And they own Maserati, they own the Dodge brand, Ram, Chrysler, Lancia, Alfa Romeo, Jeep. All your Jeeps are Stellantis vehicles. Citroën, you've heard of Citroën, Peugeot, the French brands. Vauxhall. Vauxhall is huge in Europe, not so much here. But that happened. Yeah. I mean, how many of us didn't know that the big three doesn't exist anymore? Right? And Stellantis' headquarters, it's in the Netherlands. It's Dutch. I mean, it's who knew, right? Who knew? Things happen in the world is the point. Things happen every day. And what we deal with in our daily lives, we don't catch on. The world's largest car manufacturer right now is Toyota. It's Toyota. It's not an American company. That's a misconception a lot of people have. They think it's General Motors. It's not. It's Toyota. Second largest is Volkswagen. And we're going somewhere with this. So stick with me. Second largest is Volkswagen. But Volkswagen isn't who you think Volkswagen is. This is Volkswagen, folks. Because business keeps doing what business does. Volkswagen is an umbrella company that is Audi. Seat is a Spanish car company. Skoda is a Czech car company. It's huge in Europe. Bentley, Bugatti, Lamborghini, Porsche, Ducati, Scania, man, those are all Volkswagen, folks. They're the second largest manufacturer in the world. That happened. The third largest is Hyundai Kia. Fourth is the Renault. You remember the French car manufacturer, Renault Nissan. They partnered together into a conglomerate. They're the fourth largest. The fifth is Stellantis. The sixth is General Motors, followed by Ford, then Honda, then Suzuki. That's how it shakes out. Who knew, right? I mean, we don't pay attention to all that stuff. We have our narrative. We have what we know, and we live our lives because we don't have to keep track of all that stuff. That's not what we do. We just kind of go through our daily thing. But it matters, folks. It matters. We had, and this is why, we had Viktor Orban go to Mar-a-Lago yesterday. And Donald Trump loves Viktor Orban so much that he twinkied with him. Look at this. He twinkied with him. They wore identical matching suits, shoes, almost the exact same tie. He twinkied with the man. And then this is Donald Trump talking about Viktor Orban down at Mar-a-Lago.
There's nobody that's better, smarter, or a better leader than Viktor Orban. He's fantastic. As you know, the Prime Minister of Hungary, and does a great job. He's a non-controversial figure because he said this is the way it's going to be, and that's the end of it. But he's the boss, and you know he's a great leader, fantastic leader in Europe and all over the world. There's nobody.
Here's Viktor Orban. Fantastic leader. Smart guy. He's the boss. This is the way he says it. This is what he does. And that's the way it is. That's who Donald Trump wants to be. He's telling us to our face in something that is not part of the narrative. That's not the picture we're supposed to see. We're supposed to see what the campaign puts out. We're supposed to see what the trolls put out on social media. This is what Donald Trump is, you know, but this is a fourth wall break. This is Donald Trump showing us who Donald Trump is and what he values and what he thinks is important. And if you don't know, Viktor Orban is not smart. He is not strong. Strong leaders don't have to do things like this. See, Hungary had 26% inflation last year. Their inflation has plummeted this year because their economy is tanking, but that's a whole nother story. And the numbers that come out of Hungary it's like Russia. They're just kind of made up. But yeah, Hungary, Orban couldn't handle the criticism because he was having 26% inflation, and your population tends to not like that. You know, we briefly had 15% inflation here, and yeah, that pissed everybody off, including me and you, but it was just brief. They had 26% inflation for damn near a year. Yeah, he's not a genius. He's not a smart man. And as people became irate about it, they began to complain. So what he did was he arrested me. Yeah. That's what I keep telling you is going to happen when Donald Trump becomes president. It's in the 2025 project. Go look. That's what they do. He arrested me. I'm a hub for information. You come hang out with me. There's 3,500 of us live right now. 30, 40,000 people will watch this. So what's the answer for a weak leader that can't lead, that is afraid of his own people? You remove me. That's who Viktor Orban is. That's who Donald Trump wants to be. But let me give you an idea just how small Donald Trump is by giving you an idea how small Viktor Orban is. You know, Viktor Orban loves Putin. Just loves Putin. Loves him. Why? Vladimir Putin owns his light switch. 100% of the energy that Hungary uses in one way or another comes out of Russia. Even their nuclear power plants, the fuel for their nuclear power plants comes out of Russia. So yeah, Viktor Orban loves Putin. But you remember just the other day, the European Union had about enough. of Viktor Orban and his pushing Putin's agenda in the EU. So they threatened to kick Orban out of the EU, and he caved. Why? If 100% of your energy comes from Putin, why would he cave? I mean, he's got to have that energy, right? He caved because Putin gave him permission. See, folks, the way it works, the way business works, the latest model since Reagan, you get corporations that have built a name, a brand. And you go to a country, China. China has grown tremendously under this model. Mexico. Why do we manufacture so much in Mexico? Because you just take the disparity between economies and you go find some place that's cheap. You build your product there. It doesn't matter if it's crap. It doesn't matter that it's not as good. And you build it there because it's cheap. Then you slap your label on it and you bring it here and you sell it for a premium. It's that simple. It's that simple. And Volkswagen does that exact thing with Hungary. Hungary is a two-trick pony. They make car parts and agriculture. The agriculture is not really that big of a deal because they got to sell that to Russia. What they don't consume at home, they have to sell to Russia. And if you know anything about doing business with Russia, if you're going to buy something from Russia, like say you need aluminum or something like that, that's an easy relationship. They got something, you buy it. Where it gets really tricky with Russia is if you have to sell them something, because they're like, it's mafia mentality. They might pay you, they might not pay you. You don't know. So Hungary's agricultural economy is tied to Russia. And they do. They've got great farmland. Don't get me wrong. About 70% of Hungary is farmland, and it's great farmland. It really is. But it's industry. It's heavy industry. Is car parts. It is. It's car parts. If you bought an Audi, Audi's owned by Volkswagen. Volkswagen, in Wolfsburg, Germany. You think you're buying a German car. You're not. Your motor was made in Hungary. And it's not just the motor. It's 15 different car part companies you've never heard of. You may have heard of like AC Delco, but you don't really know what AC Delco's relationship is to different car manufacturers. Everybody, well, that's GM, right? Well, no, it's a subsidiary of GM. They do business with other companies, and there are now hundreds of AC Delcos out in the world, all over the place. And under that business model that we were talking about, of you take your premium brand that everybody thinks that you're making on a top tier assembly line in Germany, and you go to some place like Hungary or Slovenia. Did you know that Slovenia, I'll show you on the map where Slovenia is here in just a second, is actually produces more cars per capita, more cars per citizen than any other country on earth. Yeah. There's this whole corridor of countries that are utilized by Europe and European countries to manufacture their car parts. So if you're Putin, and you're running your pipelines, this is the Turk Stream pipeline right here. This is the Turk Stream pipeline. You wonder why Turkey has such fealty to Putin. You've got the Trans-Anatolian pipeline and the Turk Stream pipeline. They run through Greece to Italy. That explains a lot about Maloney. the fascist just elected in Italy and why Italy's been flirting with Russia so much. Putin owns their light switch. You've got all these pipelines run through Turkey. Erdogan has tremendous fealty to Putin because he owns the light switch. And this pipeline right here is what keeps all the lights on in Hungary. But then you've got Slovenia over here, Czech Republic, where Skoda is from. Serbia is huge, a huge advocate for Putin. They're all collecting off this pipeline. So why did Putin allow Orban to fold? Volkswagen. Because, I mean, you can't eat natural gas. You can't build a house out of natural gas. But if Volkswagen is building its engines in Hungary, Hungary can buy your natural gas and you can move hard currency into your country. And Putin skims a huge amount of that hard currency off the top. That's why he is widely considered the richest man in the world. And that's what's controlling our politics. That is the behind the scenes, the fourth wall break of why everybody's really acting the way they act. To us, the way they control us is good guys and bad guys. The narratives of good guys and bad guys. The Republican Party, complete fiction. Immigrants are the bad guys. Democrats are the bad guys. Democrats and immigrants love each other. They're together. We're America. We love America. We're the patriots. They're the bad guys. But in all reality, no. It's fiction. It's fiction set up to keep us focused on anything but business. And let me just show you. I showed you the Turk Stream pipeline. This is going to blow your mind. Do Ukraine and Russia like each other? No, they're at war, right? They hate each other. They're killing each other, right? Well, in the midst of killing each other, they're also doing business. These are Russian pipelines that are all flowing today. Yeah. While this war is going on, this gamble to control the government, business is business. And Putin's getting paid. And Ukraine is getting paid. And you people in Europe, our European audience, you're paying them because you're buying the gas out of these pipelines. Yeah, that's today. While they're shooting each other, these pipelines are flowing today. And you know why they don't get cut off? Because everybody knows what that means. You know why Japan entered World War II on the side of the Nazis? It wasn't because they particularly loved Nazis. They're basically ambivalent to them. They didn't care. They didn't give a crap about Adolf Hitler and his delusions for Europe. Japan entered World War II over resources, energy. They did the calculus. Our economy is growing at X rate. The energy that America sells us, because we were a huge oil exporter, just like we're the world's largest oil and gas exporter in the world right now, just like we were going into World War II. Japan took a look and said, the United States will not sell us the oil we need. We need to do to them what we did with Russia, which is punch them in the throat and make them do what we want. And that's it. That's Pearl Harbor, folks. That's Pearl Harbor. So yeah, if Ukraine cuts off those pipelines, which they could, if they cut off those pipelines, Europe starves for gas and World War III breaks out. It's overnight. World War III is on. So nobody touches the pipelines because business is business. Same with the Middle East. Same with the Middle East. You know, everybody thinks it's about religion and it's about this, that, and the other. And congratulations, hit the thumbs up buttons, folks. We've broken 4,000 in the live audience. I'm glad you're here, folks. But it's like the Middle East. You know, everybody wants to make it about religion. Your churches are that narrative. It's like sitting in the Godfather movie, thinking you're in the chair. Your churches are the narrative. You know who knew this? George Carlin. After this show, go back and watch some of George Carlin stuff. It'll make a hell of a lot more sense to you. It's all about the narratives, folks. And you know who's the worst fourth wall breaker of all? The one that does it the worst? Elon Musk. See, most of your billionaires get it. They understand. People that won't be controlled can't be controlled. So they kind of have to keep these narratives going. Good guys, bad guys. But we do business behind the scenes. I'll give you a perfect example right now. Is China a good guy or a bad guy? To you, folks, I'm asking you, you know, I ask you questions all the time. Is China a good guy or a bad guy? It kind of depends on what day of the week it is, right? But right now, the point is they're the bad guy. You like your electric cars? You want electric cars? Because we're the good guys. We're the ones defending the environment, right? Well, if you want your electric cars, you're going to have to do business with China. You just are. But China knows they're the bad guy in the narrative. So what did they do? They built battery plants in a country with access to the European Union. Hungary. They built battery plants in Hungary. That had nothing to do with Viktor Orban. It's like I explained to you about you know, Windows and Teslas. These were not geniuses. You know, that Windows was going to happen. We were demanding the interface. It was going to happen. Bill Gates was not some genius coder. It was just right place, right time. Elon Musk, we said we're going to have electric cars. We're going to not destroy our environment. We're going to have electric cars. We're done with fossil fuels. Change. The big car manufacturers said, no, we've got these systems set up. No, we're making engines in Hungary dirt cheap and selling you Audis at a premium. Are you kidding me? We're not changing. Elon Musk said, I'll sell you electric cars. But he doesn't understand. He's supposed to keep his mouth shut. He's supposed to make us feel good. China gets it. BYD is much larger than Tesla. And they're moving into the European Union. They are. And it has nothing to do with Orban being a genius. It's we the people demand. The corporatists will provide. That's just the way it works. It's just the way it works. So how does that apply to us? I mean, that's just the way it is. That's the way the world works. How does that apply to us? Well, we're always going to have those narratives. You got people that are, I buy American. I buy American. I got a brother-in-law that lives right there that buys nothing but Ford and has no freaking clue. Ford hasn't been an American car company for decades. But he buys American because the narrative, man, the story. He's living in the story that they presented to him. I buy Hondas because my Hondas last and don't break down. Yeah, I buy a Chevy truck because I don't need to know where the repair facility is when I buy a Chevy truck. It's just the way it works. You know, I mean, I've got no loyalty to anybody because they've got no loyalty to you. It's just the narrative. I live in that sliver of the world that is that fourth wall break. I get to look in and enjoy the narrative, and I get to look over here and see the people and enjoy both. What does that mean to you? Well, you got two parties here in this country. We're a two-party system. One party full of Katie Brits, just making it up, creating bad guys to keep the narratives going because that's how they keep us divided. Good guys and bad guys. You know, you've seen it play out everywhere. Even the Middle East is a perfect example. Israel was the good guys. Now Israel's the bad guys. To keep us focused on that. The border. Immigrants are the good guys, or the bad guys. You know, the Democrats just voted down a horrible bill because guess what? We're a nation. We need immigration. We do. We need immigration. But they've created this narrative, this bad guy narrative, that if you say immigrant, well, you're talking about a brown person that came out of Mexico. No, we get immigrants from all over the world, people. Every major industry in this country, they don't recruit here. They recruit globally, because they're global corporations. Silicon Valley is full of immigrants. Some of the richest people you've ever seen. Full of immigrants. So the Democrats voted down a bad bill, but you know, the Republicans are running with that narrative. Democrats, they love them immigrants. That's the side they're on. The bad guys. And that's what you have, folks. That's why I am a dyed-in-the-wool. People ask me all the time, Paul, how can you grow up in Texas, being a good old boy that likes to hunt and fish, and be a Democrat? Dude, I live in that little sliver that's the wall break. I know there's one party whose focus is improving the lives of the people. Then I got another party that is 100% owned property of the billionaires. The folks that live in that world that we just talked about. The LGs, the Volkswagens, the Stellantis, Ford, Chrysler, every major corporation you've ever heard of. That's where the Republicans live, in that world. They live in the world where Putin pays Ukraine to pump gas through its country while at war with them. They don't really look at you and your quality of life. You're just a thing. You're a thing. Remember, I mean, that's how corporations, that's the business model. You take an economy where they pretend our money is worth X amount, and then you go to another country where they pretend it's worth less so that you can pay people less. You build your thing there cheaply, then you bring it back and you slap the label on it and say it is an expensive thing, and you people buy it. We're just a narrative. We're just a thing to be controlled with a narrative. That's where the Republican Party is. I'm going with the people that even when they screw up are screwing up trying to help me. I mean, you got two people, a guy that's trying to help you paint your house and he spills some paint every once in a while, and another guy that pisses on your house. Which way you going? I'm going with the guy that's trying to help me paint. Even if he spills a little paint every once in a while. That's it. That's the bottom line, folks. That's the whole deal. The jig is up. I just want you to look at this map again. In Russia, just over the Ural Mountains, there's the Siberian Plains. The Siberian Plains are full of natural gas. And by the way, it's not the Russian people. They're just buying into the same bullshit narratives. They're fed just like we do. It's not the Russian people. It's the Putins. It's the oligarchs. They control, even though it is a massive swath of Russian land owned by the Russian people, they don't get the gravy off of that. And they take that gas, and you can't eat gas. You gotta sell it to somebody. They sell it in Europe. So the European corporations, they control the narrative. So they can keep their gas flowing in for their factories, so they can make cheap products and pretend they were made in Germany, or pretend they were made in France, pretend they were made in Italy, when they're made in Hungary or Slovenia or China. I mean, it's really that simple, folks. China moves its battery factories to Hungary. They slap a European label on it. Your car's now made in Europe. That's the way it works. That's the world today. So, what does that mean to you? We've got to look out for our own interests. We do. We have to look out for our interests. We have to vote for people that are representing our interests, that want us to have basic things. Remember, government only does the things we can't do for ourselves. You got up this morning, you made your coffee, you made yourself breakfast, you need government to make sure that the roads are decent and you've got fuel for your car so that you can go to the grocery store and do what you need to do. Vote for the party that says, you can't really run a hospital. You can't build a hospital. You can't recruit doctors. You can't do all of those things. And when we allow corporations to do it, all corporations care about is the profit. All they care about is the profit. Really, that's their job. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative way. It's what capitalism is. And I'll give you a perfect example. Elon Musk and Tesla. Tesla doesn't make money selling cars. Tesla is an entirely new aberration of car company. And it pisses Volkswagen off deeply because the Tesla business model isn't to make money selling cars. The government gives them the free money for making electric cars because you and I want electric cars. We want to force the industry to make electric cars. So they came up with carbon credits. It's money. It's free money. It's free money. A carbon credit just allows a company to make money, profit, and then deduct it from their taxes. That's what a carbon credit is. And the cleaner you run your company, the more carbon credits the government gives you. They just give you money. So Tesla, maxed out on its zero taxes using carbon credits, sells them. They're fungible. You can sell them. So if you've got a really dirty company making a really dirty product, you can keep doing that. You just buy the tax credits for pennies on the dollar and you write off the taxes. And that's how Tesla makes money. Now imagine being Volkswagen. You got to make your money by making cars, by making crap. You don't get free government money printed and handed to you. I mean, folks, I need you to think about it. Why is Tesla stock where it is? They're not even the biggest electric car company. BYD is the biggest. As far as net revenues, not even close. Not even the same ballpark as Volkswagen or Toyota or even General Motors. They're not even on the top 10 list. But Elon Musk is the richest man in the world, and his stock is ridiculously overinflated. Why? Because of this business model. It's like church. Churches don't make anything. They just sell you God. You give them money, and they promise you things. Have you ever noticed that about religions? Each new religion that comes along promises more when you die. It's God's honest truth, folks. God's honest truth. The old Greek mythology religions, when you died, the common person, you went to the Elysian fields. In the Elysian fields, you drank an elixir, it erased in your mind who you were, and you just walked around like a zombie in these fields, not knowing who the hell you were in your life. Next religion came out and said, you know what? When you die, you go to this place, and you are who you are, so that when you die, everybody you love will be there. And then the next religion came out and said the same thing, but you get virgins. Yeah, man. Churches don't make shit. They sell a promise. That's what Tesla is. They don't make a profit off their cars. They make free government money and then sell the free government money to other people. It's a new business model. That's how these people look at the world. Here you are getting up, going to work, thinking that you're part of this, man. Bottom line is the biggest gyp in the world was when they sold you that unions were bad, organizations designed to represent your interests against powerful entities are bad. Corporations and trickle down are good, because if the corporations do good, you do good. Did any of that work out? No. And it's the same thing with the border right now. Immigrants are bad. Fox News every day scours the country for a crime committed by an immigrant. Even though we've got the data, immigrants commit crimes at far lower rates than MAGA. Because right now, that's the new bad guy. To keep your mind off business. Because if you ever started focusing on business, you would focus on your self-interest. And if you focus on your self-interest, you would say things like, screw it, I want healthcare. I get up every day, I go to this shit job, and I make you rich bastards really freaking rich. I want my teeth fixed. And man, they can't have that. They can't have that. They've got to keep you dumb and mad. And that, my friends, is the business model for MAGA. It is. Think about what they sell MAGA. The AR-15, most perfect example. You know what an AR-15 is for your average person? It's a thing that sits in their freaking closet that cost them $1,200, took $1,200 out of their household, but it feeds them a fantasy. I'm going to be the defender of all that is good and right against the government if the government should get out of line. Or them Democrats, they think they're going to be commies. Teach my kid to read too much. That's all the AR-15 is. That's the battle, folks. That's why we're saying take the AR-15s away. It's not because we give a shit if you own an AR-15. It sits in your damn closet. It's the narrative. It's the stupid freaking narrative. You could have a damn Abrams tank and nobody would care if you would shut your mouth about killing your fellow citizens. Because that's what causes these shootings. It isn't magic that they pick up an AR-15 and they're suddenly imbued with being a psychopath that wants to murder their fellow Americans. No, the narrative about murdering your fellow Americans came first. Then they went and got the gun to do it. So that's the fight. We say, take the guns away to end the narrative. It's all the good guys, the bad guys. It's really that simple. So sit back, look at your family. Look at your family. And say, okay, which party wants to fund my schools? Which party has realized that their job as government is just to do the things that I can't do myself? I can't build and fund schools by myself. That takes a community. Every point of view Republicans have is tearing down everything we've ever built because they look at the world from the point of view of Harlan Crow, who bought himself a Supreme Court justice. If we're dumb and poor, hell, he can make shit here. He's too stupid to know he won't have anybody to sell it to. Yeah, Henry Ford was a horrible human being. He was a frickin' Nazi, fascist sympathizing son of a bitch. He really was. But he understood one basic principle. I got to pay my people enough to buy my own damn product. They don't get that these days. They don't teach that in business school anymore. What they're teaching at Wharton is go find a place that's cheap, build a factory. We've got global information technology now. You can run your factory from wherever you want to live in your fancy little house in any part of the world. Build your factory there. And then when that country grows and economically develops and starts getting too expensive, go somewhere else. And that's what they do, folks. That's it. So what do you need to do? Focus on yourself. Do what's right and wrong. Stand with the people that are standing for you. I am telling you, folks, the Democrats, some reality from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party wouldn't give a shit if you'd owned an Abrams tank. They really wouldn't care if you just shut up. If you'd stop being dangerous, they wouldn't care. But you're making the fight about the damn narrative because you can't shut up about the stupid story that came along when you went out and you bought and you've seen them. They're the most hilarious things in the world. You know why you've never seen me in a bulletproof vest? Because it would be this big. I mean, it would be this big. It's just tiny little thing right here. And then my belly would be out underneath it. This is the most ridiculous looking thing you've ever seen. But they go out and they buy these things because of the story that comes with it. The narrative. They're suddenly a good guy. Hell, the NRA pushed that shit for years. A good guy with a gun. When we all know, you want to know what the truth is? Why none of these guns back here are for self-defense? Because if you go buy a gun for self-defense to shoot another human being with, statistically, that gun is going to shoot you, your loved one, or your child. That's just the facts. That's just the way it is. That's reality. No matter what story you tell about it, no matter what you told your wife about defending your home so she would let you go spend $1,000 of your kids' college money on a gun, that's the reality of the narrative. So yeah, let's do this, folks. Let's vote for the people that understand. Let's vote for the people and work for the people that understand it's about us. It's really that simple. Joe Biden is not going to be at your house to have coffee with you. He's not. If he meets you in an ice cream parlor somewhere, he's going to remember you for 30 seconds because he's going to meet 1,000 more people just like you. But he's going to work for you, even if he doesn't know you. Because that's what the Democratic Party is. So yeah, I thought that was more important. I thought that was more important than watching stupid videos of Trump glitch out or another video of an idiotic MAGA supporter who lives in fantasy land. I had a video of a woman. She's a type 1 diabetic. She's voting for Trump because Trump works for her to lower the cost of insulin. He cares. What? What? Joe Biden literally just capped the cost of insulin at $35. The cornerstone of his policy is to reduce the cost of drugs because, hey, that's one of them things you can't do for yourself. You can't manufacture insulin for yourself. This idiot woman is going to vote for Donald Trump because she thinks that Donald Trump is going to help make her insulin cheaper. And that's where I want to tie it together. Why I come in here and I say, I love you people. You people are head and shoulders above the rest of your fellow Americans. You get it. You understand simple, basic things like, hey, if we just tax those mega rich guys more, because, hey, wealth in this country, it's in the shape of a cake plate, like those cake stands. If you knock the base off of it, it's this little thin spike that goes up to a really big, wide platter when you get to the richest of the rich. That's where the wealth is, man. 8 people own more wealth than the bottom half of our country. 8, tax those fuckers because they're not doing it voluntarily. And let's be honest. If they would just do right by us, basic infrastructure, make sure that, and this is a big one for me in Texas, basic infrastructure, just make sure that the lights stayed on, that your internet worked, that you had plenty of food and a decent car. Most of you wouldn't give a shit what these rich people are doing. You wouldn't care. But they won't do it. They won't do it. So we have to make them. And let me give you the final thing that I want to do to tie this together. We've looked at a couple different things. We've looked at business. We've looked at the narratives, and then we've looked at different things. Let me tie this together in reality for you. We just had massive fires up in the Texas Panhandle. Biggest in Texas history. You know what caused those? We found out. Back in 1995, George Bush deregulated the electric industry here in Texas. Then that idiot Perry came along and created ERCOT, an independent organization unto itself, and they shredded all regulation of our power industry. And what has that led to? There are fires every damn year where people die because they don't cut the trees back like they should. They don't replace the power poles like they should. And that's the one that caused the largest fires in Texas history, killed 700,000 head of cattle. When your beef bills go up, it ain't Joe. It ain't Joe. It's deregulation. They had a rotten power pole snap off. The wind kicked up to 60 miles an hour. Power pole broke and fell down, sending sparks everywhere, which lit a fire up in the plains that ran across the plains because of deregulation. Because they were not forced to replace those poles. Deregulation did that. And it does it every frickin' year here. Why? Is it because they're evil? No, it's not. It's because of capitalism. It's just the way capitalism works. Capitalism isn't about the doing, it's about the profit. And if you deregulate really dangerous things like, I don't know, power grids, that's what happens. That's what happens. They look for the profit. It's like Tesla and his free government money that he runs his, VW doesn't want to be making cars. Shit, that's work, man. It pisses them off that they have to, find resources, manufacture, aluminum, stamp it out into parts, ship those parts all together so they can be assembled and painted and then send it out to a dealership and then sell you a car. Why would you want to do that when the government will just hand you some free money like they do Tesla? That's capitalism, folks. That's just the way it works. You are an expense. They don't want you. They want profit. So yeah, for our own best interests, some things need to be regulated. Meat. You can't regulate what meat packers do. And believe me, back in the day before they were regulated, they did gross, nasty stuff. And if you don't think they did nasty stuff then, I will remind you that they tried to force through regulation under Trump that would allow them to use diseased, pustulated chickens. Right now, if a carcass comes to a cutting room and it's got pustules on it that are leaking pus, they have to throw that chicken away. They wanted a new rule that let them just cut the parts off that didn't have the pustules. And that's today when we're watching. Imagine what they did when there was nobody watching. So yeah, regulation, folks, it's a good thing. Government is a good thing. Vote for the party that does those things. That's the end of my rant. We've got a few minutes left. Any questions that you have, any thoughts that you have, anything you want me to expand on, please throw it out there. I am more than happy to. Thank you for the support, by the way. I know I haven't been putting the comments up and reading them. We put the comments up. But yeah, I'm trying to get more information into the show because that's what we're here for, right? I mean, we're here to talk to each other, learn from each other. And if I stop to read comments all the time, it slows everything down. So what are your thoughts on that? Let's start the round table with that. Do you want me reading the comments or do you want me not reading the comments? It's up to you guys. I truly appreciate the support. I really do. We'll bring them up on the screen for everybody to read. And I do apologize. Yes, read them. I'm getting people saying, Paul Young, Mr. and Mrs. Texas Paul, thanks for your time this morning. Hey, no, thank you. Thank you for being here. It seems like the overwhelming response is to read the comments. So we'll go back to doing that then. I will limit it when we have guests, though. I will do that. When we have guests coming in and talking, I'm going to limit how much I read the comments. Barbara Lanky, too. I thought Ukraine is now energy independent. Am I right? Yes, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Ukraine is not energy independent. Folks, we're not energy independent, and we're the largest manufacturer, largest exporter of oil and gas in the world, and we're not energy independent. It has to do with the kind of oil that we pull out of the ground. We pull a lot of heavy crude out of the ground. Yes, we've got some lighter crude, the West Texas intermediate grade crudes. We do have a lot of those, a lot of that, but not enough because of the type of refineries that we have. It's a very complex situation. It's a very complex. We sell a lot of the oil we pull out of the ground here. We sell to China because China built its refining capacity around dirty, heavy crude. You don't get as much energy out of it, so fewer people bought it. It was cheaper for them to buy in, so they set their refining industry up to deal with that because they were buying the cheaper, dirtier oil than we are. So no, Ukraine is not energy independent by any means. And that was a great question, by the way. Great question. And no, you cannot drill your way to energy independence. You would have to literally restructure the entire American energy system to become energy independent. We're actually going to do more towards energy independence with renewables than we are by drilling. Somebody had a good comment about guns. I mean, really, folks, if these nutballs, I'm going to ask you directly, if these nutballs quit talking about shooting their fellow citizens, quit encouraging people to think that there are Second Amendment solutions, if all that shit went away today, would you really care what guns people own? I mean, would you? If they quit talking about having civil wars and how they're going to force their political views on us with their AR-15s, would you really care? No. I wouldn't give a damn if they had freaking artillery if I didn't have to listen to it. Well, folks, it was a great show today. Good conversation. I hate to cut it short, but I got to go shake the dew off the lilies, man. I had way too many cups of coffee this morning. I love you, folks. Just want to circle back to that. When I say that you are better than the average people out there, I mean it. It's not kissing your ass. You really are. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you motivated to be a bigger face, a bigger voice in this country. Be more involved politically because, man, we need you. We need you. They're full of dumbasses that think Donald Trump is going to try to lower the cost of their insulin when he is weaker than Viktor Orban when it comes to bending the knee to corporations and businesses. We need you, man. I need you. I'm telling you, I could not do what I do if I didn't come in contact with you people. This, not to blow my own horn, this shit is hard. Try it sometime. Sit down in front of your laptop and talk for an hour and a half to 2 hours on anything you care to talk about. Make sense, make it lucid. Teach somebody something, make it interesting. We don't know. Greg Abbott's coming up he's not up for election for a few years. We don't really know. Everybody's trying to bring Beto up again. I'm hoping we get I would like to see a good, strong Hispanic candidate. I really like Roland Gutierrez. I really do. He was running against Allred. He lost against Allred, did fantastic down in the Valley, came out after the election, didn't attack Allred at all. Did not. Went straight on the attack against Trump and Abbott like a good Democrat. So, yeah, I'm hoping Roland Gutierrez throws his hat in the ring. I think he would be a great candidate for governor. Very fiery, heads in the right place, has the right point of view. That's just one I'm throwing out there. And he's Hispanic. I'd like to see a Mexican governor. I really would. Cat Pellet and I talk about Project 2025 all the time. Ask the audience. We talk about it all the time. And if you're new here, we got a lot of new people in the audience. Fantastic to talk to you folks. Project 2025 in the Cliffs Notes version is it is a well-funded to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars program that is being run to recruit people. They're literally doing job interviews and taking applications for jobs within the United States government to have a slate of people ready to go on day one should Donald Trump ever become president again. They will have people that they will immediately bring into place to gut the DOJ, to gut Department of Homeland Security, education, transportation, every department. They're training these people on how to disrupt their departments. They're training these people on how to make sure none of those departments can ever oppose a fascist Donald Trump. That's the 2025 project. They're doing it out in the open. They have a website. Go read what they have to say before they pull it down. Just go to Google 2025 project. You'll see their website. You can go read what they say on your own. You don't need to hear it from me. That is exactly what they're talking about. Well, folks, we're running short on time. I really do got to go shake the dew off. It was wonderful talking to you. Enjoy some images of Texas cities at night.